Evryn the Light. Written by Kaighla Rises. Read by the author. Part 1. Summer. Chapter 1. Evryn. I'm running east through the moonlit woods, dodging roots and rocks. I expect to hear the sounds of warfare behind me, to smell the village burning, but aside from some shouting down the mountain, all seems eerily normal. I trip on an exposed root and fall, skinning my knee. I wince in pain as I pick tiny stones out of the scrapes. "What next?" I ask the ether as I try to catch my breath. No one responds. "Aunt Tabitha?" Nothing. "Papa!" I call out audibly this time, but Papa doesn't respond either. I stop in my tracks. The whispers have never gone silent, not once in 26 years. Whatever is happening to Kenozaria, even my ancestors are shaken by it. I stand for a moment, weighing my options. Aunt Marin and Salix would welcome me, but that's a 3-day hike south through the mountains, down into the valley and through the marshlands. I'm not even sure I remember the way. Plus, I have no food or water, no weapons, and I'm ill-dressed to spend even one night in the mountains, let alone several days out in the open. Mount Zaria's peak looms behind me, the Cyril Sea rages in the north, and ahead there are dark trees, only trees as far as the eye can see. There must be some villages on the east coast that would be happy to shelter a child of Chief Korina Freya, and they can't be more than a few hours away. But then, people who are willing to shelter me may also be just as happy to hold me for ransom. It's a risk, but it's my best hope of survival. So I run ahead through the pines until I can't take another step. Just before dawn, I collapse against a tree trunk, breathless, bone-tired, and freezing. I close my eyes and try to calm my racing heart. I awake abruptly to blinding sunlight and a rough hand over my mouth. Chapter 2. Evryn. Yesterday morning. "Don't pull the thread so tight, Rue, or you'll snap it," Mother admonished me. Rue, she calls me when I disappoint her. Rue, like her regret that she didn't take Tabitha's expelling concoction sooner. Rue, the herb that failed her. I laid my sewing down on my lap and sighed, drawing a sound of disapproval from Mother. The morning light filtered through the curtains, falling across the remains of breakfast. It's quaint, our little cottage, the only home I've ever known. 8 months after Rue failed my mother, I was born next to the hearth on a rainy afternoon. 12 years later, Papa finally succumbed to the fever that had been plaguing him for days. I lost what little remained of Mother that day, too. To escape the gnawing grief, she threw herself into her duties as the new chief of the sanctum, so the rearing of the little ones fell to me and Aunt Tabitha. Ari stepped out of his room, yawning and pulling a shirt over his head. The middle child, the wildling. Ari has always straddled the line between this world and the next, and not always with grace. I've lain awake many nights, begging the gods to release him from the grip of fever, or to relieve the pain from another broken bone. "Happy morning to you, my dear." Mother smiled when she saw him, inviting him in for a kiss on the cheek. I am her eternal regret, but Ari is her dear. "She loves you, you know," Papa whispered. "She could show it," I thought. "Where are you going this early?" Ziva asked Ari as she scrubbed away at the dishes. When Papa died, she was little more than a year old. She called me Mama longer than I should have allowed, and she's still never far behind me. "Wear something warmer. It's cool this morning," Helene commanded as Ari grabbed the door handle. She should have been born first. Always the picture of poise in a sea of chaos, my little sister. If any of us resembles Papa, it's Helene. "Can you bring back some water from the well when you finish whatever it is you're going to do this early?" Mother asked Ari from the chair next to mine. "Yep," he said, stepping through the front door, winking at me as he closed it behind him. I laughed under my breath. I knew precisely where Ari was going. Lyra's bright ceremony was that evening. He must have been heading out to prepare her gift. I couldn't help but think of the morning Torek went out to prepare my bright gift. The rose opal he gave me still hangs on a leather string around my neck. But Torek is gone now, like Papa and Aunt Tabitha. After they brought his charred remains back to the village, I stayed in bed for a week, until one cold morning when Helene came to my room carrying a tray of cider and some stewed potatoes and carrots. "I don't mean to alarm you, but you're starting to smell, Evie," she said, laying the tray down on the end of the bed and crossing her arms the way she does. I sat up and sighed weakly, putting my face in my hands. "I know it hurts, darling," she said, sitting down next to me, gently pushing my dark, messy hair behind my ear and stroking my cheek. "But I promise you'll feel a little better if you bathe, and you'll make your family feel a little better too." "Hal, I can't!" I moaned, pulling the covers over my head. "Let's make a deal," she replied, standing up to rummage through my drawers for clean clothes. "You take a few bites of this stew and then wash off that stench in the hot bath I've just prepared for you, and I'll eat the rest of it and tell Mama you did. Deal?" I took her up on the deal, and she was right. I did begin to feel better. It's been 6 months, but losing him hurts more deeply than any other loss. Because unlike Aunt Tabitha and Papa and the others whom I've loved and lost, Torek's voice is missing from the cacophony of whispers that guide me day and night. Had it not been love, that would explain why I can't hear the whispers. Only blood or true love can connect two souls across the chasm of death. The sound of the oven door closing loudly brought me back to the moment. I forced Torek's memory from my mind and busied myself, helping Mother and Helene prepare our contribution to the bright feast. It was sunset when Ari came back in, covered in wood shavings and sweat, carrying a big bucket of water. "There's another outside," he said, setting the bucket down on the counter next to Helene. In thanks, Helene handed him a small dish with a slice of cinnamon cake, fresh from the oven. He took a bite and swooned. "I assume your little excursion went well?" I asked, tousling his hair. "Oh yeah, she's gonna love it," he replied with a mouthful of cake, wiping his brow and smiling as he walked into his room to strip off his filthy clothes. Helene stood over the feast we'd prepared, assessing, it seemed from the look on her face, whether we'd made enough. "It's fine," I assured her. "We're not the only family cooking." "Yes, but we're Ari's family, and Ari is Lyra's betrothed." "Supposed betrothed," Ziva piped up from a chair in the corner, looking up from the book in her lap. "Ziva, put that book away and come help," Mother said, annoyed. "And we will do our best to show our support for Lyra. We love her, betrothed or not," she said, wiping her hands on her apron and brushing her long, graying hair away from her face. "Speak for yourself," I said, drawing another sound of disapproval from Mother. "In fairness, it's nothing personal with Lyra. I've never much enjoyed the company of other girls. I feel so out of place among them, uninterested in the glib happenings and mindless gossip that seem to consume their daily thoughts. And they don't much understand me either. So I prefer the company of the trees. People may not understand me, but they respect me well enough. I am Chief Korina Freya's eldest daughter, after all, and my mother is a force to be reckoned with. It's generally assumed I will vie for her position when she passes into the Brightlands, but I have no such design. Helene maybe, or even Ziva, but not me. All I want is to build a simple home of my own, to plant things and watch them grow, and commune with my ancestors in peace, and enjoy the simple pleasures of raising my own family, if I ever have one. But that's not enough for my mother. Nothing is enough for my mother.